And we're live. Hello, Internet. My name is Miles Bassett. This is Ask Wildman, an informational show produced by Wildman Web Solutions. We are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and for the first time ever, live on LinkedIn. Hello, LinkedIn. This is a little bit of a test run here with the new platform and new connections, so please uh, bear with us a little bit if there's a couple of technical issues. We're still working out the kinks, but please let us know in the comments below if you can hear me okay, if everything's going all right, if you see any weird glitches or anything. And also if you have any questions, as this is an open Q&A, an informational show. We are going to be doing this live stream every week starting from now on, again, on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So pick your poison there. Wildman Web Solutions is a digital marketing company based in Lawrence, Kansas. We do websites, social media, advertising, the works. Basically, we work with small businesses and help them to get online and leverage their online presence to grow and succeed. We do this show and have been doing this show on and off for the last year or two as a resource for our clients and for the business community at large, where we can hopefully answer your questions when it comes to digital marketing, whether you want to know how to get a website up or how to start using your social media more effectively, or what kind of marketing strategies you need to be employing online in order to find success. That's what we're here for. We do have a couple of subjects we're going to hit every week. We're going to talk about, but my team and I are here to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, please throw those in the comments below. You can also email us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. I've got that address scrolling below me here in the crawler, and we will use that as our material for next week's show. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and try to bring in my partner here. Mike, you ready? All right, let's do this. Hello, Mike.
Hey, good afternoon, Miles. Happy Friday. How the heck's it going? Can you hear
Happy
me?
Friday. Yeah, looks like we got
All
you in
right.
here. Seem a little quiet to me, but I don't know if that's just me or the platform. Again, if you're out there, you're watching this just live stream, help us with the test and let us know if you can hear us and everything. We want to give you some good information. That doesn't work if you can't hear us. So, Mike, today I wanted to talk about one of the foundational elements of a small business's online presence, and that is their website. Many would argue, myself included, that should be the cornerstone of everyone's online presence. And if you don't have a website right now in 2022, at least something basic, something out there that allows you to be found and look authoritative, I think that you're missing a step here. You're missing out on an opportunity. What are your thoughts there? How important is it for a small business, or I guess a business of any size, to at least have a website today?
Well, I think it goes without saying that you have to have a website today, no matter what you're doing. But I'd even take it a step farther. You need to have a good website. You need to have a website that's user friendly. You need to have a website that is mobile friendly. You need to have a website that can create conversions for you if you're selling anything. And it's really almost important as your storefront. And in some cases, it's a lot more important in your than your storefront, because a lot of these direct to consumer brands, they don't have storefronts. They don't have meaningful storefronts like we used to think about back in the day. And so, yeah, it kind of depends on your situation there. Uh, if you are a long established sit down restaurant that doesn't do takeout or doesn't do delivery, then maybe you could get away with a basic website. But I would still say you'd have to have at least have something. But anybody else who's actually selling something online, which is the vast majority of businesses out there, they need to not only have a really good website, but they need to have a professional, take a look at how the customer traffic flow is going to happen on that website to make sure that it's efficient as possible. Because we see it all the time, Miles, where people are losing a lot of sales and a lot of money just by not having a good converting website that people who are interested in their products or their services, they're going to, but they're not taking the action once they get there that the business wants them to do. So, yeah, other than having good products, good services, and good people, I think it's the next most important thing here as we sit here going into third quarter of 2022.
So, with that importance outlined, I do want to go over a couple of high level concepts when it comes to a website. Whether you are looking to get a new website for your business, you've never had one before, or maybe you have one that needs an update, or you're just questioning, hey, is it time for me to be looking at making some updates, making some changes to our current website? Hopefully, this information will help you. If you've watched this live stream before, this will be a little bit different format than we've done in the past. We're going to try to do a quick overview of a main concept and kind of talk about that a little bit, keep it a lot shorter than we have been in doing so in the past, and really use your questions to fuel next week's live stream and that subject there. So please provide your questions, send them in, throw them in the comments below, email us, and we'll use that for next week. But for right now, I want to start with at least a few terms. When we're talking about a website, again, whether you're looking at it for the first time or maybe you're looking at some sort of renewal, there are three major components to a website. The first is the domain, second is hosting, and the third is the site itself or the site files. When you're talking to people, I think that a lot of people kind of confuse all of these items or they talk about them interchangeably. So I just want to define our terms real quick and then jump into them in a little bit more detail. First of all is the domain. The domain is your address. So just like the address on your house, 123 whatever street, it tells people how to locate your website on the internet, just like your house would be located on a street in a city. Your domain allows the browser, which is the user's tool to navigate the internet, to find your website. It just tells them, here's where you're located, here's where you need to go to actually find this person. You can get your domain through a domain registrar. That is a company that allows you to register that domain and associates that domain with your ownership, with yourself and your entity. So you would go out to GoDaddy or Namecheap or Google Domains, which is my preferred domain registrar, by the way. Start searching around, find one that's available that is not already claimed, and then you register it to your entity. This is usually a pretty cheap process. You look at domains, they're $12, $14, $15 a year. So very, very cheap in order to register a domain. There are some other products and services that will be upsold around it, things like you'll see an SSL on there, which maybe we'll talk about in a future live stream, or other security performance updates. A lot of these things may or may not be necessary depending on how you decide to set up the other components of your website. But let us know if you want to talk a little bit more about those additional features. At the very minimum, you need to get a domain registered in order to have a website live on the internet. Once you have your domain, you'll need hosting. The hosting is the physical space where your website files will live. So there's going to be some server somewhere, some computer, some block of storage somewhere that's actually going to save your website files, and the domain is going to point to that. So there's a lot of different types of hosting out there, from shared hosting to cloud hosting to dedicated hosting. We actually have an entire article on this on our website. Maybe I'll link in the comments here below. But hosting can range anywhere from $3 a year to $200 a month. Totally depends on the kind of hosting that you're getting out there. And you really get what you pay for. So if you need better security, better performance, or all sorts of other tools and bells and whistles that can come with these products, then you're going to pay for that. Generally speaking, I do advise that you don't go on the complete economy side of that. Don't get the cheapest bottom shelf hosting, pretty much no matter what you do. Even if you have a very basic website that's not using a lot of resources or really doing a whole lot, at least go up to that middle shelf and grab something that's going to be, maybe 20, 30 bucks a month. You can get a pretty good product for that amount of money. The really, really cheap stuff out there, it might save you a couple of bucks here and there, but it's going to cost you in headaches later, given that you have poor performance, poor security, and things just not going to last as long. It's going to blow up in your face, and then you're going to come calling me to fix it, and that's going to be expensive and probably wipe out all those savings you're going to get anyway. Again, probably something we'll go in a little more depth in a future live stream, talk a little bit more about hosting, but you're going to need some sort of hosting plan in order for you to have a website live on the internet. Finally, this is the fun part, the actual website itself. This is the files, the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, other code files that produce the website, the thing that you are actually seeing on the internet. This will live on your hosting and be have an address that is your domain. The website can be built in a number of different ways. There's a ton of technologies out there. As a small business owner, you've probably been bombarded with all these different offers and technologies and platforms. So there's tons of different choices out there. Again, probably something we'll go in more depth later on and helping you to choose what platform is right for you. But they basically break down into three main categories. The first is the DIY model. So this is going to be you going out and subscribing to a platform, something like Wix or maybe Squarespace, that allows you to choose a template. It has some sort of drag and drop interface. You can build your own website and publish it. These are pretty easy to get started. There's a pretty low barrier to entry. They usually don't cost very much. There's a little bit of a learning curve. Some of them are easier to use than others. For example, Wix is super easy to get up and going. Squarespace is a little bit more, has a little bit more you can do with it. I think it's a little bit less limiting. But there's a ton of tools like this out there, and there's being more and more all the time. And honestly, they're getting better and better over time. So the pro there is that they're cheap and easy to use. The con there is that they are somewhat limiting. They are built to be DIY platforms, and therefore they're not going to be able to do everything. They're not going to be the fastest. There's not going to be the most powerful, the highest performing. They're not going to be as optimized for search or performance. And then when you are working your way through other digital methods, like if you're doing some digital marketing, you're doing some SEO work, you're running some ads, there's going to be less that you can do with it. And so you just got to be careful and be aware that those platforms do come with a ceiling. The second category is going to be more advanced content management systems. You'll hear this acronym, CMS, Content Management System. I would put WordPress in this category. There's some other more complicated ones, Drupal and Joomla and things like that. You'll see a lot of these. They're a little bit more technical. There's a higher barrier to entry in that you need to know a little bit more about the platform in order to get something up and running, but they're not quite as advanced for you to need to hire a professional software engineer or anything like that. You can be a web developer, or if you want to put a week into watching some, here we go. Sorry, another thing going. If you want to put a little bit of time, watch some YouTube videos or something, and you're fairly technically competent yourself, then you can get up and going using one of these tools and get a website going. The final category is a custom-built web application. This needs to be developed by a professional software engineer. You're going to be hiring a team to do this. And this is when you need your website to do some real heavy lifting, to do some processing, to really do something out there. If it has some more advanced functionality like that and is going to need higher performance, you're probably going to need to cough up a little bit more money for a really high quality hosting, and the initial development is going to cost a lot more, but you're going to have a massively more powerful solution for you out there on the internet. So those are the three big things that you need to have a website. First, your domain. Second, your hosting. Third, your website files. There are plenty of options within each one of those that will allow you to get up and going. There's pros and cons to all of those different options. Some are easier, some are more difficult, some are cheaper, some are more expensive. Some places you can afford to cut corners, and other places you're really going to get what you pay for. Hopefully we'll spend the next couple of weeks going into all of those in detail on this live stream, but that's my high level overview. If you have any questions on any of this, again, email us, askwildman@wildmanweb.com, visit our website, wildmanweb.com, or throw your questions in the comments below. Mike, do you have any quick responses from that, or take a marketing approach on the other side?
Well, let me leave the marketing, I guess, out of it for a second, and just talk about a little bit of a pain point that I hear a lot about that maybe I want you to flesh out a little bit, and that is the ability for especially small business owners who probably don't have a dedicated person on staff that is their their IT or their computer department, or something like that, where they have a little bit higher level of knowledge, and they certainly probably don't have a website designer or builder on staff. A lot of times I hear businesses complain about the ability for themselves to edit their website and to make changes to their website. And a lot of times people feel boxed in that I can't do with my website what I want them to do, or what I want to do, and I have to go get somebody else to do it for me, and that either causes two problems: either they don't do it, and then it just never happens, or it's expensive; it's an added expense. You touched on WordPress a little bit there, which is something that we use a lot for small businesses. It's a good solid platform for most small businesses out there. But one of the things that a lot of people complain about WordPress is that it's hard to manage themselves. So can you talk a little bit about, for example, we use something called Website Pro with a lot of our WordPress sites to help empower a small business owner or even a solo entrepreneur to really be able to manage the site themselves and not have to rely on a web designer when they just want to go in and make a simple change, like add a new product line or put a new employee that they hired on the website. Can you discuss a little bit about the importance of having the ability to manage your own site when you're a small business?
Sure. So that is where picking the proper tools in each one of these categories is going to become really important, because if you do choose something, say in that middle tier, like a WordPress site, it takes a little bit more to get it set up, and therefore there's a lot more room for setting it up improperly or setting it up right. If you work with someone who knows what they're doing and they do a good job by getting you set up with a good WordPress site, it's going to be easier for you to manage. If you try to get through it yourself and maybe this isn't your skill set, or if you find someone that is maybe not as good that will get this set up for you, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to manage. There's going to be a lot more technical hurdles in there and a lot more opportunity for mistakes. This is why you may hear from some people around you, or maybe you've had this experience yourself, that managing a WordPress site is difficult, or highly technical, or they've had trouble with it in the past. And that can very much be the case if it is not set up properly or with that type of user in mind. For example, Mike mentioned our Website Pro tool. This is our hosting solution. So that's one way where if you pick a good tool for your host, managing your website is a lot easier, because that comes with a lot of bells and whistles and tools that help for website management. Nice little green checkbox indicator that lets you know if there needs to be some plugins updated on the website, or quick and easy access to certain elements of the WordPress dashboard. A lot of times when I'm building a WordPress site for someone that is self-admittedly not a tech person and really is kind of intimidated by this entire thing, they don't want to mess with it, I will go through the WordPress dashboard and disable a bunch of the more technical options on there, so that the only options made available to them are the ones that they actually need and need access to. If there's anything more advanced that needs to be done, they can ask me and I can jump there and do it. But they don't have to feel stressed out by logging into this and thinking, they can't find what they need to find, or they're going to mess something up by being in there and doing what they're doing. There's also more advanced themes and other softwares that you can use. Sometimes we will use a premium theme that comes with a visual editor on it. That allows people, again, less technical people, to log in and have a visual editor on the site that gives you that kind of drag and drop feel of one of the DIY tools. It's a little more advanced than, say, a Wix site or something along those lines, but it's nice and easy for people who have no previous WordPress experience to log in, click edit, and then they are just swapping out an image or changing some text or something like that. So that's where it's really important to go into each one of those categories, the domain, hosting, and the website itself, and make the proper choices early on when it comes to the tools and technologies that you're going to be using to set up your website. As I'll say on this subject and many, many more, you'll probably get tired of hearing me say that on this live stream, but spend some time up front doing some research, and making sure that you're making that right choice up front. It's going to be a lot easier for you to make the proper choices and give yourself the proper toolbox initially than it is for you to go back and, change stuff up or end up rebuilding something when you realize you had the wrong tools.
100%. And so along those lines, I want you just to quickly give us an overview of this, because I know this is we could get knee deep in this. But another pain point along these lines that we see, or for lack of a better terms, the difference between an open and a closed platform. We see a lot of people who maybe they don't think that there are tools out there that will allow them to manage a website themselves, and so they kind of go with a pre-packaged, if you will, website option. A lot of times you'll see this in certain business niches. If you're a dentist, I'm sure you get at least one call a week from some company in California or New York selling their website platform for dentists. And same thing with any kind of business category you can find out there. And we often then find these people months or years later, and they're extremely frustrated because, again, they can't do some of the things that they want to do in terms of updating their website. Sometimes they don't have good control over the website. Sometimes they don't even actually own their website, and they're not even aware of that. And they also have limitations in terms of SEO, or if they want to run ad campaigns and what they can do with their site in general. And so, again, I know this is a broad topic, but can you just kind of hit the meat and potatoes of the difference there and what people need to be aware of when they're making those decisions and when they're being pitched these products? I mean, because we come across people who are literally paying thousands of dollars a year in subscription fees for something that they could just pay one time and be done with, and then have like $30-40 a month hosting fees, and that's it. And they're just throwing money at inferior website products. So it breaks my heart, Miles. We got to stop this madness. So help us understand what's happening there.
This is another topic that we could definitely go in more depth on. I think we're just we're giving ourselves topics for the next couple of weeks to really be talking about all this stuff and dive in. But we want to hear more about what you want here. So if any of these subjects sound more interesting to you, or if there's something that we didn't address here, please throw those in the comments. We will use that for our material. So regarding open versus closed platforms, this isn't always the terminology used around this, but generally speaking, an open platform is one that is more agnostic to the tools and the technologies that are being used surrounding it. So WordPress is a good example of that. Since we were talking on that, I'll just stay on that train. That is a completely open technology. Anyone can contribute to it. Anyone can see how it works. It's built on PHP. That's the coding language. And you can do whatever you want with it. And if you build a website on WordPress and you're paying for the hosting and everything, then you completely own everything that you've put on there, everything that you've built. And you can take it off of that and put it on a different host. You can go and move your domain from one registrar to another one. You can make any changes that you want to the actual file. So on all three of those categories, you're in complete control. And at any point, if you get mad at your provider, you can opt out and leave. On a closed platform, that is something that's proprietary technology that's been developed by a company to do something. Maybe it's a website builder. Maybe it has hosting built into it. Maybe they're also a domain registrar. Something like Squarespace, for example. If you build a website on Squarespace, they are required to be your host and they own your website files. You cannot export a Squarespace website off of Squarespace and then put it on a different platform or a different host. You can't pull it off of that. The only thing you can do is rebuild something that looks visually similar using a different technology. That's because it is a closed ecosystem. Now, that one's pretty straightforward on everything. You build a website using their technology and their builder and using their host. It is sort of an all-in-one solution. It's designed to be a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, nice and easy. But it means that you have less choices, less options, and there is that ceiling on you. Like I said, if you want to move that off, you decide you don't like Squarespace anymore, you have to build something completely new, completely from scratch on a different technology, because you can't just export that. WordPress site or a custom built site, you can export that and move that anywhere you want. It's just a set of files, set it up on a different host, and you're good to go. So that's kind of the big difference there. We do want to be careful because some things don't market themselves as explicitly open or closed.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it might not be 100% clear what kind of tool you're opting into. And you're right, some of these platforms and companies will niche down into something very specific. They just work with restaurants, they just work with dentists or something like that. And they get really good at that, and they build a platform that's really built specifically for that. In that way, they can be really awesome tools because they've niched down and they understand the kind of the pain points of that industry. And so I'm not going to say that there's never a time or a place for that type of tool. With that being said, if you ever want to leave, if you're not pleased with some of the services that they're offering, or if they don't allow you to do something that you're wanting to do, leaving can be very difficult, very expensive, because it turns out everything that you've been doing with them is owned by them on their platform. And if you stop paying, everything turns off. You're right. We had this happen with a client a couple of weeks back who thought that he owned his website. He originally built it on WordPress and then started working with this other company who had rebuilt his WordPress site on their platform. And he didn't realize that. It wasn't completely communicated to him. And so he didn't realize that. And once he was unhappy with them and was looking at leaving and using another provider for completely unrelated issues, not necessarily related to the website itself, he realized he was going to lose his website in the process.
Yep.
And that became a huge challenge for him that he had to overcome before leaving this company. So just be really careful about that. Make sure to ask these questions specifically. Hey, what happens if I leave?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'm going to leave or anything. This is not a threat by any means, but I just want to know what that looks like. If I'm working with your company and I decide in 6 months, 12 months, 3 years that I want to leave and work with someone else, what does that look like? Do I lose everything? Is there an export function here? Please explain that to me. That question alone can save countless people, countless headaches, and countless dollars in rebuilding everything when they don't realize what kind of deal they're getting into.
Yeah.
So
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I've answered that question.
Yeah.
If you have any other questions, again, throw them in the comments, email us later. Like I said, we're trying to keep this show a little bit shorter, so I think we're going to go ahead and sign off for this week. Mike, any closing thoughts? I'll give you the last word here.
It's always a good idea to do an audit of your website. Like I said, get a couple different professionals to take a look at it, do some tests on it, see how it's running, see what the speed is. Also, always put something like Google Analytics on your website so you can get good data and not just be guessing out there. Hey, yeah, my website's fine. Actually take it very seriously and periodically, I'd say at least a couple times a year, get a good audit on it and make sure that everything's up to date, and it's going to make you and save you a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. Always get a second opinion on everything. There's no reason not to have everyone look at this. And unfortunately, there are some people out there that are either not good or malicious or who knows what. So yeah, shop around a little bit. We actually have a full article on our website that goes over how to find a good agency. Now, of course, I would hope that you come and work with us, but there's other great agencies out there as well, and there are some less than awesome ones. So check out that article if you want. I also posted the article I mentioned earlier regarding website hosting for small businesses in the comments below. We put lots of really great resources up there on our website. Again, wildmanweb.com, all free resources. And let us know if there's anything on there you want us to dive into, talk about, or answer your questions on. All right, with that being said, we're going to sign off for this week. We'll be back live streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn next week. I think we're going to keep this time for the time being, do Friday at noon. So we will see you again next week. Mike, thanks for your input, and we'll see you then. All right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.